All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Gameplan NFL Week 3 full slate betting angles and DFS breakdown. Let's do this.
Got the best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block. Helmets, casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision. We got too many. Tick your check. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
All right. Welcome back to the Game Plan, everyone. I've got the GOAT himself with me, John, Statsational, Alessia, top 10 ranked DFS player in the world, a professional sports bettor representing Sharp App. What's up, my man, John? How's it going?
It's going well, man. Let's bang this out today, man. Let's get some winners.
No doubt. And of course, and before we get to that, I'm going to explain how we do this. So what we're going to do is take a look at a core 4 primary games to concentrate on this week for your DFS lineups. We want those high scoring, tight-knit affairs, of which we have a bunch of this week. I'm really excited about that. And before we get into it, of course, I want to talk about our sponsor for the show, Owner's Box Weekly Fantasy Sports. Guys, if you haven't checked this out, like the overlay has been nuts every single week. I've been begging you guys to go check this out. We have a link in the description below over to Owner's Box Fantasy. The twist with Owner's Box is they are a Superflex format. So you can actually build full correlations with 2 quarterbacks, each tied to a wide receiver. It's a really, really cool way to execute what I would say is a little bit more correlative approach to lineup construction. And the best part is their contest, John, I know you love overlay, bro. I know you love that shit. Their contest has been a 100K contest that has not been filling. So you're getting all this free money. And when you sign up with code Drew9, they give you $10 to enter that contest. They've been actually giving out extra $10 bonus checks each week. You don't even have to have put in a credit card or made a deposit. So you can literally go there and play for free. Make sure you use the link in our description below that helps support this podcast. All right. Now, let's get into it, John. NFL Week 3, the core 4. Let me get this up on screen here, baby. All right, core 4 games. Now, John, it's a really interesting week because there are 4 afternoon games. One early, and then 3 more, I think, in the afternoon, all with monster totals, close, tight spreads, and it is quite the potential for a fiesta. But let's start with the early game of the week, and that is the Chargers-Chiefs. You could borderline build all your lineups around this game and be in a pretty good spot, I think, John. The Titans are not the Titans. The Chargers are heading out to Kansas City as 6.5-point underdogs, 54.5-point team total. Bear, Mahomes, lots of goodness going on there. So what's your take? Any interest in what does the line tell you? Not that close of a spread, 6.5, 54.5-point total.
Yeah, 6.5 is probably in the pretty close to where it should be. They're giving you that, we're getting just under the 7, that key number there with Kansas City. If I had to lean on this game, it would be on the Kansas City side. Chargers did play them well last year with your boy Herbert, and 55 total makes a lot of sense. Now, the Chargers coming off playing what we seemingly think is a Dallas team that the defense is pretty weak. I think a lot of people got burned on that one. Bring that up. What do I have there for the for this week?
So you've got, I mean, interesting. I think the most interesting thing that I'm seeing here in the power rankings is just how many passing yards this is projecting for the Chargers specifically. 292 passing yards, which is at the high end for any team's projection of the week. And it flies in the face of a little bit of what we saw last week from the Chargers, where they had that weird, DFS killing, drives kept ending, penalties in the red zone game. Like everything that could cause last week's game not to score well happened. And it was a reminder that shit like that does happen in the NFL. Like, holding, penalty, fumble, all the weird shit that happened in scoring opportunities in last week's game. And it kind of like, when you looked at that, you go, the Chargers maybe one of these teams that don't score a lot, or was that something else? So it's interesting to see the power rankings really expecting the Chargers to smash from a passing game perspective in the spot.
Yeah, I wouldn't look too much into last week's game. If you watched it, I think there were some bad calls in that game, and it kind of took away from what that game should have been. So I do think, it's not as tight a spread. Usually we like that 3-point spread. But I don't think you have any problem game stacking this one. Kansas City, you can definitely score on. I mean, that's going to be the weakness. I think you're gonna see that in the future. Keep that as keep that in the back of your mind. I mean, that's kind of the way football's gone now the last 10 years. When you get the quarterback like Mahomes, it's very difficult. And once that quarterback starts getting paid, to have the defense to go with it. So you see it with Seattle. You're seeing it with Mahomes. You're going to see, Arizona's going to be in that. They sort of are in that situation now that they don't even have that great a defense.
That makes the NFL better. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It makes the games more exciting. And as DFS players, we love these games. We love these, 55 total games for sure. So just keep that in mind. I mean, that's just the way football is going to be. It's going to be a lot harder to build complete teams, as these quarterbacks develop and these young quarterbacks become good. So, we could anticipate maybe the Jets one day being in that situation, but
not anytime soon. So
maybe no time soon. But yeah. So this game is, you look at my stack. I got my stack probabilities up as well on there, and it's it's pretty much littered with Mahomes is the top guy, and then you've got somewhere close to the top 10 is going to be Herbert stacks. I think the top one is 12. So what I'm doing this year too is just I'm keeping in the stack probabilities. I'm keeping tabs on each and every week, and you'll see what the actual score was.
Oh, I love that. A little bit of accountability doesn't hurt.
Yeah, so you'll be able to go back and see, and maybe last week wasn't the best week to start tracking it.
The accountability looks bad.
But really the top team, if you throw that game out, that Charger game out, it was the usual suspects.
No, there's a lot of Brady in there. There was, I think Brady was number 2 on the list.
Murray,
Let's take a look. So a couple of big narratives and storylines from this game. Number one, the salary drop on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just the general ineptitude of Clyde Edwards-Helaire over the first couple games. I do think, he's going to have a little pop game here or there, but we are discovering that, listen, they ain't going to throw to this guy, and that's how it is. If you look at the matchups cheat sheet, which is my favorite thing to look at when evaluating a game, we could see that, not good. Season target percentage 0 targets last week, had the gross fumble. There's nothing exciting here about Hilaire. He's priced down, and I think for good reason, even though the volume continues to be there in terms of the rushing volume. Some other interesting items of note. Last week we had the weird Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson, sort of like, but not Kelsey and not Hill situation. Take a look at the target drop, 30% week 1 and 2, or week 1 down to 13% last week and week 2. What week are we? We're week 3.
Yeah, we're
right?
week 3. Yeah,
down to 13% last week. Kelsey got the targets, but just didn't do as much with them last week. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much bracketed Hill the entire game. They just took Hill away. So, you could do that, but it certainly didn't stop the Kansas City offense. It wasn't anything that really Hill did. I guess they had that one nice play that they loved, that Collinsworth lost his mind on at the end of the game. I forget who they got the rookie, I think, was on him, made a nice play on him. But yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it. that's why you're stacking these. You're doing game stacks on these, because I think, with teams like Kansas City, and of course the teams playing Kansas City, and I think the Chargers have that ability. We want to have multiple game stacks, and we have multiple players within our game stacks, and we have multiple players in this game who can absolutely smash. Now, I don't like Edwards-Helaire, but he could, when you're scoring 35 to 40 points, he could fall into the end zone a couple of times. My concern here is now that he's going to fall out of favor with the coaching staff. And I think that's the main concern, is you start to see him on the field a whole lot less.
A little more Darrell Williams in there, a little more even Jerick McKinnon in there. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire might not be very good. We don't know. I don't want to overreact but we haven't seen anything near what the hopes were for him after he was drafted in the first round. We haven't seen any of that. We really have not had an example of it. And again, we've seen some of the Williams brothers have good games in this offense. We've seen LaShawn McCoy in the past have good games in this Andy Reid offense. We've seen running backs excel. Now, I think that part of the deal here is that Mahomes is not a check down quarterback. He just doesn't he doesn't check down to his running backs, but they need to run some designed routes for him if we're ever going to get any good fantasy production out of that spot. Now, let's take a look at the Chargers side of this game, because another really interesting team. Number one, I think the resurgence and emergence of Mike Williams cannot be understated. All offseason, I talked about the 5th-year breakout for Mike Williams. I know you listen to all of the Bold Call season-long fantasy football podcasts that I do, John, and we talked about this, and he is being utilized. They brought in the Saints offensive coordinator, and he is being utilized in the Michael Thomas role on this team. He has now targeted Keenan Allen on the season after 2 weeks. That is mind-blowing, John.
I do listen to you, man. So I do have him on one of my teams. I scored like 180 points on one of my season-long teams last week, because I have him.
He's on all my teams, bro.
Yeah,
he's on all my teams.
I think he may be the number one guy, and you're getting him at the a much cheaper price, much nicer price. So he's going to fit in nicely. You're always paying up Kansas City games for stacks, so he's going to fit in nicely in the game stacks here.
He's like free on FanDuel, and when I say free on FanDuel, you want touchdown scoring wide receivers, touchdown scorers, right? On DraftKings, we want volume guys, but FanDuel, I want touchdown scores. For $6K on FanDuel in this game, gonna
be a lot of touchdowns to go around in this game. So I absolutely, that's what I was looking at, was the $900 price difference.
It's more dramatic on FanDuel, because FanDuel has that different structure where you're used to paying more like $7,500, $8K for a touchdown scoring wide receiver. So this is like a massive bargain situation on that. And who doesn't score a lot of touchdowns? Keenan Allen. Like, he's not as good of a FanDuel play most weeks. He'll get one here and there, but he's not a touchdown scorer. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, he hasn't been.
Trying to see where we have him. I assume they're pretty close on the stacking.
I'm sure it is. Now let's just another non-touchdown scorer, but a guy of interest for me is Austin Eckler on this team. So we're creating these stacks. You've got Allen, Williams that can go along with Herbert, but I think obviously Austin Eckler is a pretty involved component. He got 0 targets week 1, then he winds up with 22% of the targets. I think it was like 9 or 10 in week 2. He's back to being this PPR machine. Still not a touchdown scorer. You can go back a couple of seasons with Eckler, and he has not been scoring the tutties. Yeah, he has not been doing it. So yeah, Michael's saying, how Deontay Johnson, we played him every single week of last year and no one was just on it. Yeah, Mike Williams is becoming like that. No one's kind of picked up that this is 10, 12 targets a week guy. Are there any corners? The Chiefs traditionally have actually been very good against wide receivers. It's a little weird. They tend to give up points to tight ends, running backs, through the air, and quarterbacks, but wide receivers, they've limited their style. But I don't know here. I think that favors Keenan Allen in the sense of in the passing game a little bit, just because he's out of the slot much more. But what is that? What's your takeaway on that?
As far as the Chiefs giving up points against the Chargers,
I mean, the Chiefs have ranked number 2, 3 in terms of
Yeah.
DVP against the wide receiver position and fantasy points allowed. They've been that way for now a year and a half, and they're always ahead. You would think that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. I look at Pro Football Focus for those numbers as well. They've got the Keenan Allen matchup as an average, and they've got Mike Williams as below average. And actually, if you look at it, the flip side, they've got Kansas City as all sub-average. They have them all as bad matchups. So interesting there. In a game that's going to be 55 points, where are the points coming from? You got to figure it's coming from the passing game. But they really, if you just look at the wide receiver cornerback matchups, they're not great on either side of the ball.
Yeah, no, it doesn't project well in that sense, but I throw that shit out the window. 55 points, massive total, lots of points to go around. I think it could be a Kelsey game. It's always a Kelsey game, but it could be another Kelsey's the guy I'm forcing into my line. I just always want Kelsey every week. I know that there's some Millie Maker evidence that you're much better off finding like a cheaper tight end that goes off for the same amount of points, but it's just harder to do that. And Kelsey's just hanging out. He's like, hey guys, I always get 20 plus points every single week. And sometimes I'm going to get you 30. And it's like, okay, that sounds fair. I like that. I like that trade-off. I'll pay the price. I like Kelsey. I always like Kelsey. Going to play him this week. Any other thoughts on this game? Obviously,
you mentioned the tight end. You got Cook as well on the other side.
Yeah, Jared Cook, perfectly acceptable.
Yeah,
perfectly fine. Jalen Guyton as a sort of a wide receiver 3 on the field a lot. Not a lot of volume, but he's out there. But that's going back 2 years already with Guyton, that he's just kind of out there as dead wood. But anytime you got a guy hanging around in a game like this, and the other guy that's floating around that's going to be interesting in that salary saver component is Mecole Hardman, who's out there 77% of the snaps, really good target share. He hasn't done much with it, but he will. Mecole Hardman is going to get a big touchdown or two more than once this season. And, if the elite corners for the Chargers kind of try to bracket Tyreek Hill in this one, then I think Hardman, he could pop for one. So that's definitely a guy I want to throw in the mix of these game stacks. One cool thing about this game, John, before we move on to the next one in the core 4, is it's one of many exciting games this week. I don't think we'll have chalk congealed around a particular game. It's not like last week where everybody played the one game primarily, the Cowboys. I don't think we're going to have chalk congealed around this one because there's 3 other games that are just as interesting for me. What do you think?
I agree. And let me give you one last note on this game. I think the way we're going to be making money with Kansas City is on the guy you brought up, Hardman. I think that's where the money's going to be made for the most part on these teams. When you got a quarterback like that, he's not going to be focused on just one guy. He loves Kelsey, loves Hill, but loves all his, get open and he's going to get you the ball. So if teams are going to start focusing more on Hill or more on Kelsey, you're going to see these other guys at cheaper prices. I think now is the time we could get them on the game. So if you're going to stack these games, you got to do it with some of these cheap, maybe put in a Cook with some cheap wide receivers. That could be the way to the big points in this game. Yeah,
I mean, that could Cook, Hardman. You're going to have to get it's. One of the things I've noted in studying the numbers is just the overall that it's second and third wide receivers, tight ends that are much more correlated with the quarterback. The WR1, the primary receiver, the correlation isn't as great as you would think because that guy kind of always does well. So it's when the quarterback is beasting, it's usually because he's pulling a second or a third player with him. And that's where you really make the money in DFS. And you've got to be conscious of that when you're constructing lineups. So really, really great. Really great point you just made there, John. Let's move on to game number 2 in our core for today. It's the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I don't normally include what I don't think is going to be a close game in this, but there are some reasons I'm interested in this one, mainly because of how great the Cardinals offense has just been performing. And also the fact that, John, this line is a little bit closer than I want to get your take on them. This feels like they're trying to suck me in. And I'm trying to figure out, am I missing something? Cardinals -7 against the Jaguars. The Jaguars suck, dude. They fucking suck. And the Cardinals have been pretty good. So I don't understand what Vegas is seeing. Why is it only -7?
Yeah, this is one of those where you know, I know that you know that I know sort of thing because I'm thinking home field advantage is not what it was. Okay. We've gone over this a million times. It's about one right now. It's at 0. The away teams have actually won more than the home teams have. I expect it to be somewhere between 1.25, 1.5 by the end of the season. That's about where I think it should be. That's the way we've been trending. And I have to think that the odds makers know that just as well as I do. So I don't think that they're valuing home teams here. So I'm kind of throwing that out. If that's the case, then I do think the line is too low, which actually leads me to believe I want to bet Jacksonville in this game. I know it sounds crazy.
Saying. Like you're going the opposite.
Yeah, because it's like I know, it's like it's level 6 thinking, and I just could be totally out thinking myself, which happens quite often. But so that's the way I look at that, because I'm pretty bullish on Arizona. We talked about them. I was taking them to win the division. I thought it was good value there before the season. Again, I just go with the quarterback. This quarterback's going to score points every single week. I know you love the quarterbacks who can run. If you can run and throw, you're going to score points. Your floor is extremely high. He's just going to be the type of guy that you could use in your cash games all season, as long as he's healthy. And he could, he's going to be a GPP type of guy as well, because he's going to have those big games. This is a game potentially, he could score a ton of points. I don't see the points. It's a little more scary on the other side with Jacksonville, just because there's just they haven't clicked yet. I still think Lawrence will be good. Hard to project that they'll click, but you could take this with a comeback player here. You could take a Chark or somebody on the other side.
I don't mind. I don't mind mixing in a little MJJ, action, a little Marvin Jones Jr. and some sort of a stack. But this next level thinking, this whole Princess Bride situation that's happening over here, and you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Look at the power rankings. Do not indicate that Jacksonville is going to do well here. I know there's some of last year mixed in, but still 186 yards, 18-point total projection, not very good rushing probability here for the team. It looks gross, man. And you know what I'm interested in Arizona defense. I don't get it. I know, I know these things. You should not get sucked into lines that look too good to be true. I know this. But this one's sucking me in, man. I kind of want to bet it. I kind of want to bet it because it's sucking me in. So it's just weird. But on the Arizona side, not the easiest team to stack. A lot of players that are involved in the offense. And if you take a look at the numbers here in terms of the target percentage, you can see that, it's really nicely spread out. Green now up there. Rondale Moore with a little spike in production to the expense of DeAndre Hopkins last week. Rondale Moore. Yeah. Not out there that much. Still not out there a ton. But when he is, they're targeting him. He comes out and they got to play for him. They love Rondale Moore, don't they?
He's a little dude too, huh?
I root for the little guys.
He can run. And my main thing with Moore is I'm upset. I took him in one league, and then I kind of passed on him in another league when I had a chance to take him, because in an auction league, because I'm like, I don't want to take too many chances on unproven guys, and I probably should have grabbed them in that league as well. But listen, again, this is the new NFL. You get a quarterback like Murray, we can easily use his second and third receivers, and he's going to run you in one, right? So he probably runs one in this game and throws 2 or 3 at least, get you good points. You don't have to use Hopkins in these matchups. No. Like I said, there's plenty.
Hopkins will have a hard. I was going to say, John, Hopkins will have a hard time returning peak salary value week to week based on this spread of targets. Hopkins, to me, you've got to downgrade him. He is a consistent wide receiver, but the ceiling is not similar to a Steph Diggs, even a Calvin Ridley. These guys who can become alpha target hogs on their teams, that you're not going to get that out of DeAndre Hopkins, not this week and not this year, I don't think.
No, Hopkins, listen, he was, as talent goes, he was as good as anybody. And we know, unfortunately, talent is not what we try to
Opportunity.
In fantasy. It's opportunity, right? When he was in Houston, I mean, it was just get Hops the ball and that was it. Even when he came here, he was really the main threat. They've got other weapons now. And they don't need to just focus on Hopkins. Hopkins is going to draw all the best coverage early, especially this year. So it's going to leave opportunity for these other guys. And when you have a quarterback like Murray who's going to run around, extend plays, he's going to find the guys who get open. And a guy like Moore is that type of guy. When he's scrambling, you can't cover Moore, right? That's going to be the guy who's going to get a lot of those Murray scramble, dump to Moore for 7 yards, and then he's going to run it for another 10, 15. So I like that. I like that type of guy in this offense.
Yeah, I think it's noteworthy just to mention that for Jacksonville, Jay Sizzles, James Robinson did pick up a little bit more of the volume in week 2. I guess maybe some of that, reverberations of what the fuck is wrong with you, Urban Meyer. Maybe that gets back to a guy like him. He seems like the kind of person that reads those headlines and cares about what they say. I am no fan of that dude at all. I think he is a disaster for the Jaguars. But overall, you do see that the snap percentage went up 68% of the rushes, 73% of the snaps. So a little bit more, but also a couple targets last week. So, a little bit more action for him. I don't love the spot at all for James Robinson, but no one's going to own him. 5,500 on FanDuel. So there's a little bit of bargain basement hunting. And if you're right about the odds makers sort of telling us that Jacksonville will be a little bit more competitive this week, then maybe take a little, maybe we can consider Robinson in a lineup or two, something like that in max multi-entry. I think Marvin Jones Jr. is the clear-cut alpha in this offense. Laviska Shenault got a Q tag going, so I'm not sure what's up with him as well. Marvin Jones Jr., 33% of the targets last week. Anytime they're close to 30%, I consider that an alpha, a target hog, a high floor player. So I don't mind Marvin Jones Jr. He's still fairly inexpensive on DraftKings. The salary's coming up a little bit on FanDuel, but as a touchdown scorer, I don't mind that either. Yeah, and on the Arizona side, you really just want Kyler and, pick right. I'm favoring Rondale Moore. Feels a little chasey after last week, but that's just the guy that he's so exciting when he's on the field. He's a guy that excites me. So that's the way. And I don't want to pay up for Hopkins. And I think Christian Kirk is, fool's gold. He's pyrite. What do you call? Did I get that right? Pyrite? Fool's gold.
No.
Pyrite. Pyrite. Guys, in the comments, fool's gold. Look it up. What is it? Pyrite?
I usually know these things, but
yeah, no, it's something like that. Anyway, all right, let's move on to the next game in our core. So again, one last note on that. I think that will be not very highly stacked up compared to these other three that we are going to be to the first one and these next two, which are two of the fucking best games. I mean, you can't ask for more. You can't ask for better than this. All right, so let's start with the Bucs Rams. 1 point spread. 56-point total. Pyrite. Yeah, I got it right. Pyrite. Nice. Thank you, Jordan. So 1 point spread, 56-point total. Rams, Bucs. Brady, Stafford, old school. Cooper Kupp, Jalen Ramsey. A lot of interesting angles here. Is there anything we can glean from this number other than that Vegas expects what we all do when we look at it, a close and high-scoring affair? And do you think this total may be a little high considering both of these are elite defensive teams, like two of the best defenses in the league?
Yeah, he stole my thunder. That was my read on it. I thought the line was, when I saw it, I thought the total was a little high. I think the line's right about where it should be, but that total seemed high because I understand how they get to a high. I could see this game obviously getting in the 60s, but you look at it on paper, you're like, okay, two pretty good defenses. Now, Tampa hasn't really shown that yet this season. Now, they played Dallas. They gave up points in the first 2 weeks. But we do anticipate this Tampa defense to be better. One thing I think we can lock in on is neither team is going to be able to run the ball. I don't think we're going to see any rushing. So that's where the total starts to make sense, because then if you say, well, if they can't run the ball and they're throwing it a lot, that's going to lead to more scoring and, extension of the game. And that could be why we're going to see this game higher. And that, that could be why Tampa totals become higher this year, where teams just give up on running. Like, you know what? We're not even going to try it. Again, you saw Dallas run the ball pretty successfully last week. Couldn't run it at all in week 1 against Tampa, right? So I think that could be the reason we're seeing the line where it is. And that's how I think we get to a higher total, is just a ton of passing, very little running from either team.
All right. So there are some interesting defensive backy kind of and situations going on here that we got to go over. Number one, AB got the vid, got the Rona. Not a good scene for Antonio Brown. He'll be out, right? That elevates Scotty Miller into probably a volume role, a little bit more. Brown has been on the field about 54% of the time in the slot. Scotty Miller coming in about 15%. So elevate Scotty Miller to a 50 to 60% snap count guy, which I very much like, John, in this one. I do like that a lot. He'll play mostly out of the slot. Now, I got a question for you. Mike Evans has traditionally been a wide receiver that when faced with elite cornerback play, completely does nothing, right? Does nothing. Mike Evans gets wiped out. Now, Jalen Ramsey, I think he's going to be on Evans. I think he eliminates Evans from this game. But do you think maybe they throw him on Godwin? Like, is there a possibility that me fading Evans will come back to burn me because Jalen Ramsey will move around and, I'll be wrong about him being on Evans?
I think that's I think Evans is going to – I actually think he's going to move around and not be locked in on Evans. So, I mean, that's just the way I'm looking at it right now. If he's on Evans, Evans does nothing. You're 100% right. So I don't want to get too geeky, I guess, on it, but you kind of depends on how you're playing. If you're playing just one lineup here, I would say don't use I wouldn't use Evans in my stack.
Like, I'm thinking about even benching Evans potentially in fantasy football leagues where I have a good player. Like, somebody gave me a choice, DJ Moore or Mike Evans, and I went Moore.
Well, I've got my mom's visiting. She's in the next room, and she's been telling me she's got Evans on her team, and she's like, he is on my bench this week.
Yes.
So my mother is benching Evans.
We need to get your mom on this.
We got to get my mom in. Yeah.
Somebody really knows football.
She's very opinionated.
Yeah, I like it. I love it. So she knows about Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah. She's like, there's no way I'm not playing Evans this week. I forget who she's putting in, but she's got a pretty good replacement.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild. By the way, I mean, this is an easy choice, bro. I think it's got a lot of good wide receivers, this guy. Josh, I'd go Cooper, I don't know, and Brown. It's not an easy. You know what? Pick up any two. You embarrassment of riches. You know what? I don't even want to help you, Josh. Why do you have so many good players on your damn team? What the fuck? All right. So, yeah, I mean, Mike Evans. So I think we go right back to Gronk in this game. Fucking Gronk, bro. We go right back to him because he's been smashing, and it makes sense to play tight ends against the Rams with their elite corners. Like, tight ends do well against the Rams. Go right back to Gronk, motherfucker. 80% of the snaps. He is Kelsey for cheaper.
Yeah. The Gronk's all about the touchdowns. He's not going to get you Kelsey yardage, and he's not going to be utilized as much going down the field, but he's going to be a red zone machine here for Brady. And I think what we saw is last year, it just took him time. He was not the guy early in the season. By the time the playoffs came around, and then obviously the Super Bowl, he had that big game. And it's hard to fade him. I agree with you here. I like Gronk. I would be taking Gronk. Someone asked, is Scotty Miller in play if AB's out? 100%, yes. Because it's so cheap that you can't avoid that kind of, at that price in a game that could potentially be in the 60s. You can't not play Scotty Miller. He could be. I
would put him as one of the best punts on DraftKings. Not a FanDuel play. FanDuel play. Let's take it easy. We want touchdown scores, but one of the best wide receiver punts of the week on 100%. DraftKings. I will be all over Scotty Miller. Fucking Julian Edelman part 2.
Yeah, he could get you an easy 15 points at 3K, 3,100, whatever he is, and fit in nicely. And then, of course, give you the ability to stack some of these because, we've got some big stacks and just this game itself. So if you just added him in as a 4-player stack in this game stack, he'll fit in there nicely, and you'll have room to mix in some big players in other games as well.
On the Rams side, we got to take a look at, of course, Cooper Kupp been smashing, now elevated to WR2 or 3 on the season. Well, I was talking with Season Long Says the other day about if we had to redraft right now, what wide receiver number would Cooper Kupp be? And we had him as WR3. Like, yeah, Devontae Adams still there, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, well, the thing with Stafford is he's been a good fantasy quarterback in his career. Just hasn't been a great put wins on the field quarterback. Real life, he hasn't gotten the wins. He's in a different situation now, but you totally expect that he's going to put up numbers. If he's putting up the numbers, these guys will as well. So, it's crazy. It's crazy to move Kupp up that high, but he's certainly
he's been great. Now, let me ask you this question. Do you think that Tampa, having seen what Cooper Kupp has done the first few weeks, do they put extra attention on Kupp, open things up for Bobby Trees?
I don't think so. It's possible, right? So week 1, they pretty much shut down Cooper, right? So Cooper had not
Cooper smashed.
Cooper went crazy. Who got? Lamb had the Lamb had a couple of drops in week 1. That was what.
Yeah, no. Cooper Kupp. Yeah, and it's Robert Woods. Hasn't shown the big numbers yet, right? But traditionally on this Rams team, Woods and Kupp kind of went back and forth. You'd have those 30-point games for Woods. This feels like everybody going to play Kupp at this point. Maybe shifting over to Bobby Trizzles.
Well,
Robert Woods, Bobby Trees.
Maybe
that's the time. Because he did get 31% of the target. It's not like the targets weren't there. He just didn't do what Kupp did last week.
Well, Kupp went crazy last week. He was, and I didn't have him. Yeah, that 180-point team, I didn't have him. He was the one guy.
What? I had so much of fucking.
No. I'm saying in my season long team, I don't have him.
Oh, okay.
I had everyone else who went off, but I don't have Kupp. But for the price differential on FanDuel, it's crazy.
I think that's Mom.
Woods.
Is that Mom? Kristen?
Oh, that's my brother.
Oh, okay.
That's my brother on my sister-in-law's account.
Oh, there we go. Well,
yeah, Shepard. That's what it is. Yes, he's telling me what her team is.
Shepard looks really good. So there we go. I love it. But yeah, Bobby Trees. So I could see going over to that. Van Jefferson in this game, exciting. And I just want one last thing about this game. I'm staying away. Darrell Henderson hasn't practiced this week. Whatever. Sony Michel, not a good matchup against a Tampa Bay run-killing defense. So I don't want anything to do with Sony Michel. I don't want anything to do with Darrell Henderson Jr. I like Sony Michel, like, generally. If this wasn't Tampa, I'd be all over that. But and Sony Michel could smash in a touchdown or two off the goal line if he's the solo running back. I'm trying to look if that salary is attractive. It's a little bit. Maybe I'll keep a little. You just don't see running backs doing well against Tampa, but 4,957. It is reasonably priced. He could smash a touchdown or two in just from goal line.
Yeah, don't play it.
Don't play it.
Yeah, I'm not playing any of the. Definitely not the Rams here. I wouldn't play running backs on either side. This is going to be a heavily throw the ball. If we get a couple of goal line touchdowns, so be it. But
if you have to play a running back in this one, I'm actually going with Uncle Lenny here. It is now very clear that Ron Jones Jr. is too much of a bonehead to. They just won't let him play. He's too much of a bonehead. He makes dumb mistakes every single week. He does not clean it up. I really thought he would, and he doesn't. He's still the same bonehead. Talented guy, but a bonehead. That's what it is. Fucking bonehead. Sorry, I said it. I meant it. Don't at me. Don't at me. He's a bonehead. All right, let's go to the final game of the core four, guys. And I think this is the best of them, John. I think this is the best of them. Seattle Seahawks, Minnesota Vikings, 55.5 points, 1.5 points spread. Seattle, road, slight favorites. Anything stand out here to you? Seattle, road, 1.5 point favorites. Two good teams. Good offenses.
Yeah, I'm bearish on Minnesota. Have been all year. They played well though. Just haven't been able to. They probably. I don't know. Could have won that game last week. Could have won the game. They could be 2-0. They're 0-2.
Bad luck. Bad luck.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just the way it goes in the NFL. That's why at the end of the year, most teams are, right around that 500 plus or minus a game or two. So Seattle, though, just terrible loss. I had that game won, blow it. I'm leaning Seattle here. I like Seattle in this game. I like matchups. Listen, you said this is probably your favorite matchup. I think it might be my favorite matchup. Last week, I told you the Arizona-Minnesota game is where, if you weren't taking the Charger game, you had to go to the Arizona-Minnesota game. Minnesota is just a team we can target, and we know Seattle's a team we can target. You're getting them combined here. I think you're right. I think this winds up being the highest fantasy scoring game of the week, and if we think that, we probably have to like the over in this game as well. Russ against teams who scores. That's just the way it is.
That's when Russ cooks. I was talking to Gargano yesterday on the Wise Guys about these two games, and it was these two specifically. And we talked about, hey, if I want to pick one to go under, it's Bucs Rams, because those are elite defensive teams. The difference here is Seattle and Vikings are not good defensively. Neither team. These are bad defensive teams. So yeah, I'd be going that way. Rather than the opposite. So I love this game for fantasy purposes. Now let's take a look at some of these matchups here. KJ Osborne, you could still get him cheap on Minnesota. Getting some targets, getting some looks, all good here. 20% last week. 20. That's fucking good. That's elite targeting, John. KJ Osborne.
Yeah, it was a big pickup this week, right? For a lot of people.
I got him. I picked him up in a lot of my dynasty leagues. No one even bid for him. And he did it again a second week. And is it possible that because they don't have what I would say is sort of an athletic style tight end, that maybe they're throwing to this third wide receiver? Because Minnesota had never been a team to throw to more than two guys. It was just, Thielen and Jefferson, or Thielen and whoever else was there. They were really very focused on their offense. And now they've got this third guy in there that they're throwing to. Really interesting. Get you in a little stack for cheaper than usual. What do you say, John?
Yeah, I like it. I like every bit of, like I said, this is the game I like the best. So I'm going to be taking the second and third options. Now, a lot of people are going to want to take Cook because of what, they were going to like Cook anyway, but what Henry just did, which was absolutely torch.
Yeah, well, watching that, you're going to have to take some Cook, even with Cook a little banged up.
Right. So I think you can take Cook with the wide receivers in this game. I think that's a possibility in GPPs. So I would not, like the previous game, absolutely, you're not taking the running backs at all. This game, you could take running back with, I think on both sides of the ball, actually. You could take both running backs in this game as part of your stacks.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that. I don't know if I want to mix Cook in there with Cousins per se, but on a Wilson stack, maybe kind of a Wilson, Metcalf, Cook combination or something like that. One of the biggest challenges I've already tried to start make some lineups with this one, John, is just that all of the pieces are expensive. Outside of KJ Osborne, like there aren't any, and I'm not going down to Freddie Swizzles. That's not my guy. So Freddie Swain, no. So for me right now, when I look at this, it's just hard to, it's not the easiest game to stack from a salaries perspective, because for Russ, it's really Metcalf, Lockett, or both. Lockett's been doing his thing. But if you look at it's identical. I've never seen anything like it. It's almost exactly the same target share. Week 1, week 2, identical. They have the same number of looks. It's just been Lockett that's broken away. That's just variance, guys. Well, somebody asked here, do we think Metcalf is going off? And the answer is, yeah, it probably is this week. There's no reason he hasn't gone up other than just a little bit of luck variance to where Lockett just broke free, not Metcalf. But the volume is the same. The talent is there. The speed is there. Everything. We've seen Metcalf do this before. So I have no doubt that one of these weeks we're going to get the 40-point explosion out of Metcalf. And it might be this week right here. And we might have that week where Lockett only gets you 15. Or we may actually see the unicorn, John. The unicorn happens once a year, where both Lockett and Metcalf go off together in a game. The unicorn, once a year to win you a tournament, $1 million, only needed to happen once. On the other, Chris Carson's a little bit unexciting. of a player in general. I hate to say it, but I mean, he does get all the touches, and he gets you, for the most part, most of the carries for his team. There's no one else. It's just all Carson, but they just don't run it that much, or they haven't in the last few games. But yeah, I'll go right back to Chris Carson. I think he's good for like a 15 to 20 point game almost every week. 15 to 22 would be your sort of range. He's probably not winning you a tournament, but he's probably also not losing you a tournament. I don't like the FanDuel price. I'm not paying $700 for him there, but it's $6,400 on DK. I think it's acceptable. Do I think Madison is no?
This is where you hope Scotty Miller's playing and not Antonio Brown, because now you can mix him in here.
Jordan's playing the, Cook gets hurt early and Madison steps in. And, I like that a lot more if he wasn't priced up, but they already priced him up as a starter. So you're not getting a bargain. Even if Cook does get hurt, all you're doing is getting, a guy that you might play if he was starting for that price. I don't like it. The only thing you're going to get there is low ownership, and I don't like it. It's too much for me. Giants Atlanta. We'll get to Giants Atlanta, but I'm interested in that game as well. Yes. So we'll get to that one in a minute, though. And yes. And do we think KJ Osborne is a flash in the pan? No, I don't know. I mean, he's done it 2 weeks. I'm going right back to it at the cheap price. He becomes a flash in the pan for me when you raise his salary up to $5,500. Then I'm like, I don't want that. But at $3,500, I don't even need that much, John. I just need 5 targets, 4 receptions, maybe 65 yards. I'm all right. I got it. I got 12, 10, 11.
What if you had the double punt? What if you had him and Miller in there in the same lineup?
You might want to do that this week a little bit, because there are a lot of attractive pay-up options. And when you look at the mid-level plays, week 3, it's understandably an occasion where we're starting to figure things out. And so you don't have as many of those $4,500 like, wow, I can get Mike Williams for, $4K or something. Like, that stuff is already going away. So you lose that mid tier and you start wanting to go to the high tier or find some super punts. And, that's where Scotty Miller's and they just haven't adjusted KJ Osborne. I don't think yet. No, not sure about if he's a flash in the pan. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see about that. All right. So that does it, guys, for the core 4. And now we're gonna let's see. We've got a pretty hard stop here in about 15 minutes. So we're going to hammer through the rest of the games on this slate and just take a quick look at some ones that have some DFS interest. And maybe we'll do a back and forth thing, John, to keep it moving along. I'll take one and you'll take one kind of thing. So we'll keep these things flowing, right? And let's start at the top. Washington football taking on the Bills. Bills 7.5 point home favorites. 45.5 point team total. Betting angles here, John, just real quick. I have a thought, but I'm curious as to your thoughts on the 7.5 point spread here.
Yeah, I have a lean. I'm not going to be betting this game. But my lean's going to be Buffalo, believe it or not.
Really?
My guess is you're on the other side.
Yeah, I am. I'm on the other side of it. I didn't bet it, but my thought is Washington better than being given credit for.
Yeah, I just haven't been as bullish on Washington as you have been this year. So I think this is a game where Buffalo could just run them out of the building. So
I see it possible. I'm going the other way. I would definitely be on the Washington side of this bet. They're a good defense. They could play a game close, and I like the offense very much with Taylor Heineke. I think he's fine. As far as the DFS angles here, I'm a little bit worried about my boy Terry McLaurin. I think he's better than elite coverage, but Tre'Davious White is a cornerback on the Bills who is very, very good, and Washington doesn't have a second player to distract him, so it's going to be pretty blanket, follow coverage on, TM sizzles, and when that happens, there's just not that much else going on Washington that, from a passing game perspective, has me interested. So I think that Tre'Davious White might negate Terry McLaurin just enough to where I'm not super interested in playing him this week, especially at an elevated price. On the Bills side, I think it's just, we go right back to the same old. Always play Josh Allen every week. He should always be played in some. He hasn't done it yet, so we're going to get lower and lower ownership. And when he pops, you're going to be like, oh shit, how did I not play Josh Allen that week, right? This game does not stand out. It's gross. 45.5 point total. There's nothing about it that says play this for DFS. but I think you need a Josh Allen to Steph Diggs stack or two every single week because it's going to pop off insane one week. What do you think, John? Or can we ignore this one just because of all those incredible core 4 games?
I think you definitely can. We can pass on this for sure. I'd be careful in this game because I think if it does get out of hand, Washington defense is good too. So the potential of the game either gets out of hand, you don't want to stack a game, or Washington just keeps this game tight. One of those 17-14 games, and it's not good. There's not as many good scenarios I see for Buffalo here. So I'm fine with punting the game.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, for me, it's only GPP. I have a theory of never, ever full fade Josh Allen, but it's not one that I definitely am more excited about a 55.5 point close game than I am for some 45 point widespread game. All right, next up, we've got an interesting situation going on in Chicago where we've got Justin Fields now taking over, at least for this week, as the starter for the Bears. That's right. I did a couple of Chicago accents in that one. Couple of them. Cleveland Browns at home. Great defensive team. I've been excited about Justin Fields, John, for a while. I debut, excited. This is not the best of situations. If I had to choose one, the Browns at home wouldn't be like that's not how I would script it for the debut of my boy. But I think we could see a really good quarterback emerge for the Bears. A little surprise. Browns don't have a lot going on at wide receiver. I'm not even sure if Odell's going to play. We know Jarvis Landry's out, so they're just going to try the run of football. Do you think the line -7 for the Browns may be a little bit aggressive to the high side, considering they might not have anything going on at wide receiver at all? Nothing.
Yeah, we'll I'll give out some freebies here. We had Chicago earlier in the week at +7.5. It's down to 7. Just to me, it's just too many points here in a low scoring game. So I think
for a running team, for
a team. I think the game's going to stay. I don't see this being a high scoring game. This is not a game that I want to really get a lot of pieces of, if any. When I MME, of course, I'm sprinkling stuff in. You're playing 20 lineups or less, you're probably not touching this game at all. So yeah, my lean here is Chicago. More than a lean, I'm going to be betting it and have on the total. I don't really have a strong opinion on it. So, but yeah, Fields, tough spot. Obviously going on the road in your first start. But he got his feet wet last week. It looked okay. I think he's going to be great. I do like him. This, like you said, this might not be the greatest spot to get your debut, but hey, he's in there now, and I wouldn't, you wouldn't want to stack this game. I think people are going to take Fields just because there's been a lot of hype on him. I don't think he's going to be, obviously not highly owned, but I think people are going to dabble here and take him. And I'm going to avoid Fields for this week.
I am playing Fields. I listen. I've been waiting for Fields to make his debut, and you're not taking this away from me, John. You're not doing that to me. I'm playing Fields because he's a running quarterback and he is ridiculously priced. And when I say ridiculously priced, I'm talking about min salary for a quarterback on FanDuel. I'm talking about $5K on DraftKings. I can afford a lot with a Fields in my lineup, and I know that Fields can get it done with his legs. You don't need that much. When a guy has 100-yard and touchdown rushing potential, all he's got to do is just a little bit. He'll get you to that 22. I don't expect a great game, but I think he can get you to the 22, 24 fantasy point zone without that much going on in this game at all. We saw Jalen Hurts pretty much put up 20+ fantasy points in a game where his team scored once. So these running quarterbacks, especially young ones that are going to run more frequently because they're not sitting back there like, oh, I'm a pocket passer. No, he's like, dude, I'm fucking scared. I'm running. Right. So these guys can get you there really quick. I will definitely have some Fields, but I don't really necessarily want to stack him with Allen Robinson or anything. And I know you hate building lineups like that. I will tell you personally, it's quite difficult to work the optimizer to make correlate to include correlation when you don't stack your quarterback. So that is challenging, and I totally get why you wouldn't want to do it. It's more of a handcraft thing for me. I can throw Fields in there and just use it cheap enough to stack a game like the Wilson, the Seattle game, where now I can afford maybe a couple more pieces. I can get 3 pieces from that game that are elite pieces. So there are ways to work it. You're going to have to probably do it manual. It's really hard to set up a lot of correlative plays. And I'm starting him in a bunch of fantasy leagues because, fuck, I've got him in all my dynasty leagues, and I've just been getting zeros.
Do I start him over Brady?
Do not start him over Brady, but,
that's my only league I have him.
No, start Brady. All right, no one starts over the GOAT. But, it is what it is. I'm excited to see the debut, and I think with his legs, even in a very, very bad matchup, I think we can get there with Fields for DFS purposes because of the cheapness of him. So you're going to save a lot of salary by going that way. All right, let's move on. Ravens, Lions, 50-point total. Ravens, 8-point road favorites. Lions have been playing pretty good, John.
Yeah, I don't like that. I'm heavily on the dogs this week. I tend to play a lot of underdogs, but I like most of the dogs on the board this week. And this is another one. So I like Detroit here plus the points. I think this is a different Detroit regime. I think the player, everything I've read is it looks different in Detroit. Players are playing hard. Players are, that whole culture seems to have changed with the new staff there. So I think they'll be in this game. I think Baltimore's coming off of, one of the biggest wins they've had in the last couple of years. They finally get over the hump, beat Kansas City. Probably shouldn't have, but
no,
I think we get a little bit of a hangover here. This game stays close early, and I'll take the points.
Yeah, I like that play. I agree with you on the points there, and I like the high total here. DeAndre Swift, he swizzles. Interesting here. Ravens not as good on the road defensively traditionally as they are at home. They're nasty in Baltimore. Like, you don't really want to get too involved with players against them. But between Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift and my boy Quintez kick his ass CFAS, I'm making that a thing. It's gonna propagate soon enough. Kick his ass CFAS. I'm working on that. So between that, Bobby Wow gave it out for the showdown. Everybody won the nuts money, fucking $1 million bills. Bobby Wow handed them out on CFAS. Between that, I think that Detroit can probably hang around in this game as well. I think there are some pieces of interest. There's a high-scoring affair on the Ravens side. Hollywood Brown has been the primary guy to the detriment of Mark Andrews, and of course, we had one of the traditional explosion games out of Lamar Jackson. He reminded you last week why everybody likes Lamar Jackson. When he's running, he's fucking smashing. So if he does that again, he can always come out of nowhere. Very low-owned DFS game. So I'm just keeping it in mind. Low-owned game, keeping it in mind. That's it. I'm okay with a couple of pieces from this game. Obviously, we're building around the core four this week. All right, let's move on to the next game on the docket. We've got the Saints. We've got the Patriots. It's not pretty at all. I think there are some betting angles here that can be exploited, though, John, and I want to ask you about that. 42-point total, 3-point spread. Patriots home favorites by 3, so essentially a neutral situation for all intents and purposes. And what I wanted to mention to you here is, like, Saints coming off like the beating where it make them look like total shit. Patriots coming off of a beating of the Jets, which makes them look maybe better than they are. So there are two like narratives that I always get a little wary about. One team looking a little bit worse than they are, other team looking a little bit better than they are. Is this line off based on last week's scenario?
I think it's off, and this one scares me the other way that maybe the Arizona game did. I'm taking the Saints. I like the Saints plus the points. I just think they're a better team. You've got the rookie quarterback. Now, you had rookie quarterback against rookie quarterback last week. Belichick wins that battle every time. Plus, they're a better team than the Jets. And like you said, the Saints, who knows? I mean, you do the show with Gargano on Wednesday nights over on with the Sharp app, and he's high on Carolina. Obviously, he hit that huge bet last week on Carolina winning that game by 19 points.
Yeah, maybe Carolina's awesome.
It's on the power rankings. I've put just this year's rankings. You can have both. So I have like what the regular rankings are. And if you go to the power rankings, you can see, if you look on the bottom, there's a tab. Just go on the bottom there. There's 2021. And I think Carolina's number 1 right now. Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's why the rankings, you need to look at last season. But I do want to put it up there just so you can take a look. Now, the reason that is because New Orleans won in a blowout over Green Bay. and then of course they blow out New Orleans. So that's why they look a lot better than they do. But yes, are they number one team in the league? No. Are they better than people think? Probably. So if that's the case, I think New Orleans is getting undervalued. For everything, all the reasons you said, I think New Orleans is being a little undervalued here, and I think we're overvaluing New England. So I do like the Saints side of this game.
Totally agree. I like the Saints. I think that they're also an elite defensive team. It seems to be forgotten. They're specifically elite against the run, and the Patriots have been kind of hiding Mac Jones, the rookie, behind a heavy emphasis on the running game. So that could come to a head here. Definitely great play. And I want to remind everybody who's watching, you stay with us this long. If you want John's picks, his official bets each week, it's really easy to get them. Sign up. First of all, you want to download the Sharp app, guys. Sharp app is our baby. Please download it. Get it from the iOS store, from the Android store. Just do it. Get it. Download it. Write a nice review, too. I read the reviews on the Sharp app, and then I'm like, I like that guy because he said nice things about me. If you say nice things about me, I like you. That's how I work. I'm like really easy like that. Like all it takes is a compliment, and I think you're the greatest person for liking me. Download the Sharp app, and you get a free month of Sharp Bets, service where John gives out his official plays every single day. Tons of bets, over 10 awesome handicappers there. Keg has been destroying prop bets every single weekend. Capper Steve's out there crushing prop bets. Adam, we got a great group over there sharing their picks every week, answering questions. So it's really easy to get in there.
We get the free bet of the day. If you get the app, just go in there. There's a free bet of the day, which is absolutely crushed. I don't know how much just the free bet is up, but in the last 2 months,
you got to track that. It's like 17-4 over the last 20 days.
And they're all money line underdogs in baseball. I gave out 2 last night. I gave Baltimore, which almost won, at a plus 300, and then the Dodgers to lose to Colorado. So we made money on the split. Yeah, you got to check it out. It's been great, and it's free. So.
Yeah, do that. Don't wait. All right, next game on the docket, and we got to move quick. Falcons, Giants. This game I have a little bit of interest in, John, because the Giants have been pretty good from a fantasy perspective. I know that your mom has Sterling Shepard on her team, and she's fucking destroying the league because of that. And that the Giants have been good. Like Sterling's been good. It's not, and my boy Danny Dogecoin running the run option again. What? Thanks for bringing that back. And on the flip side, Atlanta finally gets kind of like a pretty bad team that they have a chance to style against offensively. And the Giants aren't the worst defense in the league. I don't want to get too deep into this game, but I think that on the Falcon side, Calvin Ridley is now viable again as a player this week. He's got nothing special. I mean, Bradbury's actually quite a good cornerback, but Ridley's like better than a good cornerback, if that makes any sense. I actually think Kylie Pitter, as I like to call him, is in the best spot of anybody. If he can ever break out, it's going to be here against the Giants. Giants traditionally weak against tight ends. And John, I'll just throw this one over to you. Do you think that Kenny Golladay could ever be a useful fantasy asset? And is it, he screamed at the offensive coordinator last week, a little squeaky wheel narrative, get a little grease, get a little oil on the wheel for Kenny Golladay? Or does he just suck and you can't even feature him because he sucks as a person and a player?
No, I think this is a week you can take him. So if you're going to take him, this is it. Let's see if he does it for us this week. But I like him. I like him here. I like, it's not one of our core 4, but I like some pieces in this game as well. I think Pitts, this is the best spot he's been in his young career. So I think you definitely want to have some pieces there. Shepard, of course. Barkley's the guy that people are really high. I keep saying this is the Barkley breakout.
I forgot to mention Barkley. Very inexpensive on FanDuel in particular, borderline free and reasonably priced on DraftKings as well. I forgot. I'm glad you brought him up. I totally forgot. So against Washington, he had a 3-day rest from his debut. And we didn't think that the Giants coaching staff would be wise after a short rest week to increase the workload. But now, 10 days rest. I think the workload increases this week. He might wind up being popular, though. Do we have any? I mean, I don't know if he's going to be high owned. What do you think?
I think he is, just from the rumblings that I've been, just kind of the Twitter stuff that's going on. I just keep seeing people, high owned. I don't know. I haven't really broken down what I think the ownerships are going to be yet, but I think there's going to be decent ownership here just because of the price. I think people are going to slam it, and it makes me a little bit nervous with him. This week, this could be one of those. I'm gonna make a wager here now on Thursday that I'm gonna be under the market on him. I just know how I usually construct these lineups. When I ran it earlier, I was at 7%, which is probably going to be well under.
That's very low.
And so we'll see. I'll probably have a little bit more than that, but I'm probably going to be under the market. And we'll see. He's going to be an interesting one. I was not high on Barkley going into the season. Now this is certainly a good spot for him. We shall see.
I like Barkley. I like what I've seen. He's looked good when he's been on the field. Obviously, the amount of time he's on the field isn't what we all are hoping for. But like I said, if he gets the 47 he is going to absolutely smash. Barkley is an elite player. I'm just trying to get to the volume numbers for him so far. 80, 47, 46. So he hasn't even crossed 50% snap counts yet, which is crazy. But I think we get the 60, 65% this week. So I think that's
coming, rushes, right?
But it's all speculative. It is. We don't know. And I agree with you. If the ownership is going to spike, then at that point we might take a step back. All right. Next up, we've got the Bengals and the Steelers. Interesting game. Bengals coming off a rough one on the road. Steelers, good defense, favored by 3. Maybe Deontay Johnson hurt. Maybe Ben Roethlisberger is old and slow, and he is. That's not maybe. That's for sure. 43.5 point total. Any interest in this game at all?
Maybe the running backs. I'm a little worried about Ben from a betting standpoint. I'm worried about that Pittsburgh offense. I think you got to go if you're going to bet the game. You're going with Cincinnati here. I don't think you can lay the 3 points. I like the Bengals in that game. Again, low scoring game. I don't want to necessarily have a lot of wide receivers in this game, passing options, but I do think the running backs. Now I'm nervous with Harris. They just haven't used him. Now he got the touchdown last week. I needed him. I was long.
He was almost.
Harris.
I faded him in favor of Henderson and cash, and that almost was the money until that one touchdown.
Yeah,
and it burned me.
Yeah, I was over the market on in GPP, and and everything else was going fairly well.
You got saved.
Then his touchdown really just it got me back to at least respectability. But other than that, they haven't used him. What's the numbers? I mean, you have the numbers there on the.
It's not that he's on the field. It's not the issue.
No, he's on the field every play. That's what's driving me nuts.
Only 12% target. So they're just not throwing to him, and that's not traditionally been how Ben Roethlisberger operates with a pass catching running back. Ben Roethlisberger is known as a running back feeder, right? He's fed running backs throughout his career. I think that's coming, but if Deontay Johnson is out, I like him a lot more. As a matter of fact, I think that Deontay Johnson has functioned as that short outlet guy for Ben Roethlisberger. So pay attention, guys. Pay attention to Deontay Johnson news. I think he's going to play, but if he doesn't, that would make me a lot more interested in Najee Harris. All right, let's move on to the next game. We've got the Jets, Broncos, 10.5 point spread. Broncos massively favored considering they're the Broncos, and it seems a little bit high, but 41.5 point total. Not a lot of sexiness, I would say, for DFS purposes, outside of the fact that, Courtland Sutton looks like an alpha right now, and that's a little bit interesting to me, even a low-scoring affair.
Yeah, I think it's too many points with this type of a total. I think the Jets could keep this game close. I don't expect to see a ton of points in this game. Denver's probably a little bit better than people think, but I still think 10.5 points too much. This line's actually come down. It was higher. Still get 11, I think, at some places, but it has come down a little bit. I think the sharp money hit early in the week on the Jets. We'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. But if you're going to take this game, you're taking the Jets. You want to make sure you get it before it gets to 10. Get that hook.
I did smash the -11 the minus 11 or the plus 11 line for the Jets here. So I do have a bet on this one. I took my beloved New York Jets here, mainly because I just don't think they're going to get beaten that bad by Denver. It's that simple. I just think, again, Jets, it's the same narrative as I used for the Patriots. Jets are probably a little bit better than what they looked last week, getting absolutely decimated. And so, and Denver's probably a little bit not as good as what they looked last week, doing what they did. DFS angles, I don't want anything to do with this game for the most part. It's pretty gross. Cortland Sutton, contrarian, but I wanted to play him, but he's priced up to the point where it's not that easy to play him on either side. He's $7K almost on FanDuel, $6K on Draft. He's not priced at a bargain at all, so not too much sexiness going on right there. All right, let's finish it out here with the Dolphins and the Raiders. Low-scoring affair, 44.5 point. Jacoby Brissett in for the Dolphins. Raiders pretty much coming in, maybe full strength, maybe Josh Jacobs out. I don't know. But, John, I'll tell you this. If Josh Jacobs is out, I'm interested in Kenyon Drake, the Dreezy, in this spot, getting all of the touches for cheap money for the Raiders in a game where they're favored on the road. Like, that's the DFS angle that slightly interests me. On the Miami side, I don't think Brissett is a downgrade off of Tua at all. I think he's basically the same shit. Like, neither guy is very good.
Yeah, from a betting standpoint, I think you're getting some value on Miami this week because of that, and the fact that the Raiders have looked so good. I'm still not a believer in the Raiders. I don't think they looked that great against Baltimore when they beat them, and they won that game. I just think Pittsburgh right now looks awful, and I think we get a chance here. I think Miami can win this game outright, and I do agree with you on the quarterback. There's no real change. As far as the point spread, it didn't change the spread much at all. Having two, you might even be better off with Brissett, to be honest. Brissett knowing that he's going to start.
I got word that if Miami wants to trade Tua, they're probably going to want to keep him on the bench more because every time he plays, his trade value diminishes. It just gets worse. So they might want to keep him on the bench and let Brissett play for a little bit here. I mean, that's going to be a thing. As far as DFS angles, I mean, there's just not that much to go by. Like I said, I don't hate anything in this game. I don't really hate. Certainly, Darren Waller can have a big game, and certainly the cheap options on the Dolphins. Waddle, you've got Fuller coming back. All of those cheapies, I think, are totally viable punts. Remember, one last thing I'm going to just point out for this game is I don't need, when I'm playing 4K, 5K players, they don't have to come from the exciting games. You can fill in with a Waddle for 4,500 or with a Fuller in your lineup and just pop them in there and they'll go off. Am I going to play Waller over Kelsey this week? Probably not. But, in terms of these other players, these cheap guys, even a Kenyon Dreezy on this team, Kenyon Drake, I don't mind it. And hell no, we don't play Peyton Barber, Michael, ever. Never play him. Never. You play Drake. So there are a couple of potential angles here for interest in DFS purposes or on your fantasy team. You could play Waddle. You could play maybe Will Fuller. We've been waiting a bit. He's coming back. He's going to play. So those guys are of interest, I would say, but no priority plays at all. All right, John, let's wrap it up right there. Game plan, NFL Week 3. Remember to download the Sharp app, and you can get into the Sharp Bets community. You can get John's official plays, not just on the weekends, every single day alongside a team of elite handicappers. And, of course, remember to visit our sponsor, Owner's Box Weekly Fantasy Sports. They're giving out $10 freebies to play in their 100K Sunday tournament. It's Superflex. I love Superflex. You just use, make sure you use the link in the description, and then you use promo code Drew9. Gets you a free $10 entry into their big tickets. It plays just like FanDuel or DraftKings, it basically plays the same, but just with Superflex. And I love Superflex, John. I love Superflex. So I really like the format. I played it last week. I'll be playing it again this week. So, when you jump in there, you give me one less chance because of all the overlay to win all the monies, but I don't care. I love my people. And so we give this stuff out. For John, Statsational, Alessia, and myself, Kevin the Geek Allen. Good luck this week, everybody. We will see you next time.